Hi everybody, we are here together with 6 students, some seniors, 1 junior, and we're going to interview you guys to see everything that you've done about your capstone and like what you could maybe give little golden nuggets to for our sophomores and underclassmen when it comes to capstone. So here we go. First question is, what is your name, your overall capstone topic, and your why for choosing it?
My name is Kata Johnson. I created outdoor libraries and placed them at 4 different schools in Canyon City. I did this project because I wanted to give back to my community with something that would be here for a few years. And with that, I also gave free access to books to children that they could have all year long.
Awesome.
My name is Emily Miley, and my topic for my capstone project was mental health first aid at CCHS. What I did and why I did this was I wanted to find a way to make sure that staff members could be a support system for students in need, and mental health first aid was a great way for me to do that and work with both Vista Health and the high school.
So my name is Kate Hutchison. My topic was improving the marching band sound system. And the reason I wanted to do that as my project was because I wanted to get more involved with helping out the school. So I created that as my project, and I also wanted to help give back to the school.
Awesome.
My name is Carly Cipher, and my topic was raising awareness for sexual assault survivors. I did that through using my platforms on social media as well as the Blossom Queen. And I did this because I have my own personal story with it, and I know there's plenty of people in Canyon City who do. It's just something that's not talked about.
My name is Jack Arnold, and mine is not nearly as community beneficial as the rest of these. I designed a board game based on Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And basically I just had a passion for board game creation and just creating things in general, and wanted to figure out a way to relate it to a capstone project.
My name is Tony Croce, and I hosted the Good Golly Miss Volley Grass Volleyball Tournament. And the main reason that I wanted to host a tournament like this is to promote exercise and health promotion within our community. And by doing that through volleyball, which is something that I'm very passionate about, was a way for me to give back to the community.
Question 2 is, what was your favorite part about capstone process or the capstone project itself?
So I would say the most rewarding part of my capstone project was when I was actually just driving by, going to the store, and I seen a kid using my library. Well, I had seen kids before, but it was my family. So when it was actually somebody else from the community, it was extremely rewarding and just made the whole project worth it.
I would say my favorite part of my project was all the different people that I got to work with. I got to see a lot of behind the scenes of many different areas, not just in the school district, but as well as at Vista Health, and I thought that that was really beneficial. And just working with all of those individuals taught me a lot, and I thought that was very rewarding.
So my favorite part about my project was being able to get everything all set up, do a bunch of testing, and figure out the best way to do like certain things a part of the project, and also get to research and develop parts of the project.
Okay.
My favorite part was probably being able to use my platforms, my multiple different platforms, for something better and bigger than myself. So being able to do that was just very eye-opening, and it was awesome to be able to see the way the community reacted and interacted with all my posts.
My favorite part of my project was probably getting to talk to a bunch of people who had similar interests and passions, and get to work with people like at the library and places, and like have people who helped play test the game and stuff, and it was just the interactions with people were really fun.
Awesome.
My favorite part about my capstone would definitely be the social interaction piece of it. I mean, I had a lot of teams from Canyon and also from Spring, Salida, and Pueblo come down and kind of participate in the tournament, and it was awesome to see people who have never played volleyball before to people going to college for volleyball kind of play together and have a good time and get to know each other over something that they were all passionate about and really enjoyed doing, and them being able to do it while also in like an exercise state and being able to stay healthy.
question 3 is, what was the hardest trait or skill out of the 7 to incorporate in your capstone project, and why?
The hardest trait for me was doing civility and collaboration because I'm not very good at like being in charge, and it's definitely out of my comfort zone to talk to so many people. And I had interviews with the building leadership team at Lincoln, for example, and that was super intimidating to me.
I would say the hardest trait and skill for me was definitely agency and empowerment. Again, kind of like what Kato was saying, I had to take a leadership role in this sense, and I had to communicate with numerous adults who knew exactly what they were doing, but I didn't quite know at all what I was doing. So I had to kind of figure that out and talk to a ton of people. There were multiple times that I was talking to the wrong person for a period of time, and I had to adjust. And so just learning all of that was definitely a challenge.
And I bet challenge-wise, having to present an entire staff meeting like that, I was in that staff meeting when you presented, you did a really good job.
Thank you. It was nerve-wracking.
Stressful, yeah. Okay.
The hardest trait of my project, I'd say, would be agility, and that's because a lot of the stuff were some things that I already knew, so it was hard to learn new things about the project. I mean, yes, I did learn new things, but a good chunk of it is stuff that I had some past knowledge, or at least minor knowledge too.
So kind of thinking more about what maybe if you had any struggles, how you overcame them,
Yes.
things like that. Okay. Awesome.
So the hardest one for me was also my favorite for some reason, and it was agency and empowerment, because with my project it was really easy to like kind of be put down in a way. Like there was a lot of different people saying different things, and it was difficult to like, you know, go through that and, you know, continue to be like super like courageous and have a whole bunch of power and, you know, like hold yourself to that.
Yeah.
So I'd say that was the hardest, but it was also my favorite because it ended up being the most rewarding.
Perfect.
I think the hardest for me was integrity and leadership. Not necessarily because they were non-existent in the project, but because they were difficult to show. Because my project, I did most of the things myself, so it was difficult to figure out how to show integrity through the project show leadership through the project when I didn't really do much leading.
Right.
So it was difficult to figure out how to show it through what I did.
Yeah. Yep. There's sometimes that leadership is one of the ones I think that's hard, especially if you do a capstone that's all your own and you're not really working with somebody else.
I would say the hardest for me was knowledge, specifically the math aspect of it. With my project, there were a whole lot of math things that factored into my project, and so being able to, when it came to dealing with like the money that I was getting for payment for my capstone project, that was something I really had to work into my presentation to make sure I covered the math aspects. And so being able to kind of work around that kind of went really well with like organization skills and being able to chart out my findings like with exercise in our community and how people kind of respond to having a tournament like I did, being able to put that into like graph form, or even like I said, handling the money, what was going to be donated to the volleyball program and what money I needed to kind of reimburse myself for net rentals, stuff like that, to make sure I broke even, was definitely something that I had to work extra hard with the math.
Yeah, and I think with math, a lot of times you do the work, it's just hard to figure out how to show that you did it,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome, okay. Next question is, if you could go back to knowing what you know now about Capstone, what would you do differently? Or what would you have done differently?
If I could go back and do my capstone again, I definitely think that I would have started sooner. I didn't start my capstone until my junior year, which led to me finishing the summer before my senior year, sorry. And so that led to me having to present my senior year, which was just an added stress that I did not need. So definitely start earlier.
Okay.
If I had to do my capstone differently, I think the only thing that I would do would be communicate a little bit more effectively. I found that communicating with numerous adults, that I was like the main source of communication through all of them, and because of that, if anything wasn't getting done, it was my own fault and no one else's. So I wish that I would have communicated a little bit faster and a little bit more effectively with each individual.
Okay, very good.
There's not much I would have done differently with my project. The only things I would say that I would have done differently would be communicating a little bit better with like people like my professional consultant or people that had more knowledge.
Yeah, I think that communication piece can be hard, especially if you're a little bit, nervous or you're not sure about what you need to be asking.
Oh gosh. I would say kind of lean on the teachers a little bit more. Like for me, I had a different capstone teacher every single year, and I wish I would have kind of taken initiative for myself and kind of said, no, I want this teacher, I want to stay with this teacher, because it can get a little confusing when you're going from sophomore to junior to senior year with a different teacher every single year. So I would just kind of I wish I would have just stood up and been like, okay, this is the teacher I want, and kind of lean on them a little bit sooner, rather than kind of pushing it all together and trying to get it done with them.
I think there is one caveat to that. We sometimes have people who retire, and then we have to move you guys from one person to another, and that can be a little difficult. I get that. Definitely, it can be a struggle, especially if you have consistency.
I think for me, I definitely would have found my professional consultant earlier, because I didn't really get to that till later in the challenge, but she had a lot of really valuable input that I could have used earlier on. So I definitely would have done that much earlier if I could go back and do it again.
Yeah, definitely. I think earlier is always better. Cage is a testament to that, right? Okay, go ahead.
I would say for me personally, what I would do differently is it was a little difficult with my project kind of working with the pace of the class, because for me, it was something that I had to do during the summer. You can't have a grass volleyball tournament outside in the middle of January. It'd be a little chilly. So I think being able to recognize that earlier, that my project was kind of at a different pace than everybody else's in my capstone class. A lot of the ones in my capstone class, they could have kind of been done within a weekend or something like that. And so working at the same pace and same schedule as everybody else would work for them. But for me personally, it definitely put me behind to the point where I was doing my project the summer of my junior year, and then the summer leading into my senior year, and then trying to get my presentation done as fast as I could to actually present fall of my senior year. And so kind of knowing that earlier going into it, especially if you already know what your capstone project is going to be, kind of incorporating that time management into it, and just knowing if it's not going to work with the pace of the class, make sure you communicate with your teacher and kind of work out a different schedule that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of capstones you guys do that are timing related and need to happen if it's a fundraiser during a certain time of year. So that's a really, really good bit of advice. Okay, next question is, what is one area that you grew the most in because of your capstone experience?
I definitely think that I have become a better speaker, and I'm more confident now after my capstone project.
I think the area that I grew the most in during my capstone project was also public speaking and communicating with adults. I had to talk to numerous people and present in front of many different groups of people during my project, and so I had to step out of my comfort zone and be willing to talk to them.
The areas I grew the most in would also be communication as well as leadership throughout this project, because I had to do a lot of things on my own, and I was the only one that knew most about this project, as well as tenacity throughout this project.
Okay.
I'd say I grew the most in speaking online, because I love public speaking, but it's a totally different type of thing when you're writing online, and I also say that I grew a lot in allowing people to come to me and being a good listener, because with my project there was a lot of people who approached me or messaged me just to get help, and I would say that being able to respond the right way and listen the way that I should, that was hard at first, but it was also very rewarding when I realized that that's something I grew in.
I think for me, I guess I grew the most in learning how the manufacturing process worked, because there were a lot of moving pieces that needed to get done for the project. I needed custom printed pieces, I needed cards, I needed a board, a box. I designed one, never really got around to getting a print out because it's not super necessary. I needed an instruction manual, all the different stuff, and it all was a very long process for getting it to come together.
It's kind of neat to see that you made this thing that has a lot of parts that you probably didn't realize, even though playing a board game, you've played one before, you don't realize how much work goes into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I I would say the area that I grew the most in would have to be kind of standing up for myself in certain situations. One example would be my professional consultant in the beginning didn't really have my best interests in mind. They kind of wanted to almost like take the project for themselves, and like I didn't have as much of a hand in it that I wanted to, and especially with it being like a big capstone project and a graduation requirement, I wanted to make sure that I was doing all of the work. And so being able to realize that early on and being able to stand up for myself was definitely something very important that I need to learn too, because in the past I haven't been very good at that. And so I think that definitely help me in my capstone, and will continue to help me as I
In
going.
life,
Yes.
absolutely. That's a huge one, I think, in life. So, good answer. Okay, last question, and that is, what advice do you have for other students getting ready to start their capstones?
My biggest piece of advice would absolutely be to pick something that you are passionate about. That helped me so much in my capstone. It drove me to do the next steps. And even now, I'm super proud of my capstone. Every time I drive by, I love looking at them, and I'm so proud to see that they're still going and that they worked.
Absolutely.
A piece of advice that I would give for someone who's just starting out is finding something that you love, but also finding a way to incorporate it into more than one thing. So I did my internship at the same place that I worked with for my capstone project, and I think it's a great way to like hit one bird with two stones, whatever the saying is, and just knock it all out at once. That doesn't make any sense. But it's a great way to get everything done at once, and I think that's a great opportunity for you if you can kind of get it all done.
Yeah, no, that both of you guys are hitting on really good things, especially the making sure that you're passionate about it, because that helps you to continue to be excited about it. And then yes, we have internships, and every one of you guys have to do an internship, right? And you can definitely pair it with that, so very good.
Same as they said, I'd say the best advice that you should do is find something that you're passionate about that also is able to help your community around you.
Okay, yep, and that's another one, because that feeds you, and like Kata, you can kind of speak to that. It feeds the fact that you did
Makes
that.
you feel good. Yeah.
Exactly, perfect. Yep. Okay.
I would say when you are starting your project, make a schedule for yourself, so that way you can just follow that schedule and don't fall back on it, because it is so easy to just, think of your
Procrastinate.
capstone and procrastinate and just kind of blow it off, and then you're like, oh crap, it's my senior year, I gotta get this done.
So true.
So that was like the hardest, and then also exactly what they've been saying, like find something you're passionate about, because it can not only help you do your internship, your capstone, but also after you graduate, because literally after I graduate, I'm working for the Family Crisis Center as a victim advocate, and that is because of my capstone. So many opportunities can be not only taken care of, but opened up because of your capstone, and it's a huge, amazing thing that Canyon City High School does for us.
Yeah, oh, I love that answer. And also, probably the schedule thing, that's huge. You guys are given that at the beginning of the senior year in terms of like what you need to be doing every bit of your senior year. However,
Make your own schedule.
Make your own schedule, yes, and start it when you very first begin. That's good. Okay.
I think the best recommendation that I could give is to not stress about the slideshow, because a lot of people that I know, like, they got really in their own heads about having the slideshow be perfect or getting that done. And I think the best thing to do is just to focus on the project, and then once you have the project finished to an extent where you feel good about it, then start working on the slideshow, because otherwise it's just you just need to let that part go until you're ready to do it, because otherwise it's just gonna be like in the back of your head and you'll stress about it and your project won't come out properly. So just focus more on the project than the slideshow, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have the slideshow built into your junior year where you have to get certain things done at certain times, but I understand like if you don't have it done, focusing more on the product and the things that you're actually creating.
For sure.
That makes sense. Okay, Tom.
I would say my piece of advice for anyone starting out is don't sweat it if something goes wrong, just because for me at one point in my project I was supposed to be able to have my project here at the high school on the field, and because I didn't have a waiver I wasn't able to hold it here, and so I kind of freaked out a little bit, but I was able to find a different venue to hold my tournament, and it ended up being the best option possible. And so honestly, those things that you think are the end of the world, during the point that it happens, it definitely makes for a really good point during your presentation. Just to show the solution seeking that you will be able to do, and in the end it just makes your project even stronger.
Absolutely, and I bet every one of you guys would have something you could say that was a mistake you made that you fixed and you actually learned from it. So really good advice. Okay, you guys, well, I'm just panning over to say thank you all very much. We really appreciate you guys giving everybody their, your little golden nuggets so that they can do a much better job, hopefully, than they are already with their